Hey everybody, welcome to Amnicon Studio, episode 8. Today is Wednesday, January 16th, 2019. It has been a while. Life's been crazy. I'm sure it's been crazy for you too. The holiday season was quite full, and every time I was planning to record, something happened and my schedule just went completely wonky, and I am just not used to talking to myself in front of people. Well, I take that back. I talk to myself a lot in front of other people, but I don't record myself. And my son, I know, would be right behind me jibber jabbering and making a fool of himself, so I just opted to not record. And then when I was trying for good light, we have not had very sunny weather lately, which is kind of surprising. We've had unseasonable January weather, and now it's become more January-like, and there's ice everywhere, covering what little bit of snow we have. I feel like I'm taking my life into my own hands every time I step outside the door, because it's so icy out, and even the chickens don't want to go outside and deal with it either. Sometimes you kind of gotta push and prod them and encourage them to go out, and they shoot me dirty looks, but yeah, I'm used to that. I did write notes for this, although I'm not sure how far I will go into this. I have a feeling this may be just my craft stuff. I've done a lot of stuff in the last couple of months. I think the last time I recorded was early November, and as I was walking around the house trying to pick things up to have in the pile over here, it's like, oh yeah, I need to do this, I need to grab that. Oh, I forgot about this. So I've done a lot more than I thought I did, although a couple projects were a little bit more time consuming than I thought they'd be, but that's okay. So the first thing, I guess, is my work in progress, which I'm looking for right now, and I gotta grab it. It's buried under something. Hold on. Oh, okay. Not that there was any urgency to be showing this off, because it's a vanilla sock. Surprise, surprise. This, I bet you can't guess. It's Knit Picks Felici sock yarn, and the colorway is Eclipse. Now I'm wondering, as I'm knitting this, why I chose this colorway, because I'm not really keen on it. It's kind of faded. Like the blacks are kind of not a true black. There we go. Of course the light's gonna mess with me, but I'll have pictures of this stuff on the show notes at amniconstudio.blogspot.com. Anyways, I'm not real keen on these colors, and even the yellow is kind of bleh. I am knitting them on US size 1 needles, 2.5 millimeter. I knit the cuff of the sock on USOs. I thought I had the great idea that if I knit the cuff on smaller needles, they'll kind of draw in a little bit more and will be less prone to sagging. I don't have a big problem with that, but I thought it would be nice, and we will see. I am knitting these on new to me knitting needles that I've had for a while. If you remember from whichever episode where I was kind of griping about my US 2 needles from Knit Picks and that I was just done with Knit Picks needles, I went through my friend Forbidden Fiber Co. and ordered the Chow shorties. And these came in a while ago, but I hadn't had any time to work with them and try them out yet. And I gotta say, I love the little packaging because you can just toss it in your bag and you can have all the needle tips in them. And it's just this little package, and they've got size 0, 2 millimeter up to size 3, 3.25 millimeters, and there's 2 different needle sizes. Let's see. Two different needle sizes. And there's 3 cables that come with them, and the cable needles are all a few different sizes as well, so you can kind of customize what you want your needle size to be for depending on the project. And I started working on this sock with 2 circular needles, although I'm kind of working with 2 circular needles right now, although I'm halfway through a repeat, or a round I mean, and you're probably wondering what the heck's going on here. It works for me. I'm still trying to figure out working with these shorter knitting needles. They're both configured to be 12 inches long, and I was kind of struggling with that, and I thought, I don't know if I like this, and I felt kind of bad about that because, you know, Chiaogu needles are not that cheap. And I went on one of my knitting groups and said, ladies, how do you do this? And a couple of them chimed in and said, well, I knit my socks on 9-inch circular needles, and then I only use one. Duh. So I reconfigured what I had and switched over to one 9-inch needle, and it just, let's see, I probably was about here when I switched over, and then it just zoomed down the leg, and that was really nice. But now I've come to the heel flap, and I'm struggling a little bit with making this work. And I know I could have done the afterthought heel, but I didn't want to do the afterthought heel, although I may end up having to do that with future ones, because I'm not finding a whole lot out there where people are talking about making socks on 9-inch circular needles. And the few people that told me what they do, they said they use double pointed needles, which, yeah, I guess I can see why that would be necessary, which is part of what I wanted to avoid, working with the circular needles, but, you know, what can you do? But anyhow, once I switched from using the 2 circular needles down to the one 9-inch, it's just, I'm been thrilled to bits with the needles, so I will remember that. I've been making good notes on this sock as I go along, so I can hopefully repeat what I'm doing down the road, especially once I figure out how I'm going to keep doing the heel flaps. Although maybe it's time for me to start experimenting with different heels, like the short row heel. I've never been successful with that. I had the lady from the local yarn shop years ago show me how to do it, and in theory it made sense, but when I tried to do it myself, it just didn't. And I tried following the pattern. It was a Lion brand pattern. You would think they would have that all figured out, but it just, my brain couldn't process it, and I've never bothered to go on YouTube or anything to try it again. So That is the one project on my needles. And if it's kind of bouncing a little bit, I apologize because my table's kind of wonky. I am drinking water today, just like the last episode. Before I started recording, I had a big glass of hot chocolate, so I need to kind of be a good girl here and redeem myself. Okay. Okay, the next thing, I did a test knit for one of my friends. She started a group over on Facebook for making hats for the homeless in her area, and she designed a pattern that she will have up for sale for I think $1. Something really reasonable, and all the proceeds from that will go to help make these, I think she called them angel packages for that will go with these. And a pattern's called Asheville, and I said I would do the test knit for her. I apologize if I'm sounding a little bit scattered, but I'm trying to, it's been a while, I'm trying to remember all of what happened then. The Asheville hat, US size 9 needles, and I had a really hard time finding yarn for this hat because it called for bulky. And I realized I don't have any bulky in my yarn stash. I mostly work with fingering weight and worsted. And I thought, okay, I will hop on over to the local big box store, and they had everything but bulky. They had super bulky, they had worsted, they had fingering, they had crochet thread, all that, and I thought, well, maybe if I double up the worsted weight, I can get a bulky. Since I've never worked with bulky before, I didn't know what the yarn weight actually looked like, and it was terrible. The gauge didn't come out right at all, and a friend rescued me and sent me some yarn. So thank you, LaDonna. She sent me Knit Picks Brava yarn, and I gotta go through my little book here. I forgot to open it up so I can tell you what the color of the yarn is, because I'm pretty sure I wrote this down. Maybe I shouldn't have recorded after all today. The color is Solstice Heather, Knit Picks Brava Bulky, and I've got it on my little dummy hat. I wish it's a really dark blue, and it's really pretty, and it's a very squishy hat. Let's see, will the cables come through? It's a 1x1 cabling, and I finished the hat, cast off, showed it to my husband, and he promptly put it on and started using it for his ice fishing when he went out. And he was very happy with it, and he's kind of picky with his hats. There we go. Oh. So I knew this was a winner. There. So I was going to send this off to my friend for her group, but now that my husband's claimed it, yeah, it's staying in the house. And let's see, the next thing, since I got busy working making hats, I decided I wanted to make a couple more thick, bulky hats, or quick hats. And I saw some Lion Brand yarn at the big box store, and I knew I wanted to make it into a hat, and not just any hat, a cabled hat. It kind of reminded me of some of the cabled hats I saw last year when we went skiing, some of the girls coming down on the slopes. and it is the Cable Tasseled Hat by Lion Brand. It was made up on US 13 needles, and I think the colorway is called Azalea. I lost the ball band, but Azalea sounds right. And it was made with Hometown USA yarn. And as you see, I haven't put the tassel on yet. Because I can't decide if I want to go with a white tassel on it. I'm not sure how that would look. Or a tassel in the same yarn. Can't decide. Have I been calling this tassel the whole time? I meant a pom. I did not want to do a tassel. I wanted to do a pom-pom. And I recently got a set of pom-pom makers, and I kind of went nuts. And I made up a whole bunch of white pom-poms out of some white acrylic yarn I had, because I thought I was being clever and using up some yarn stash, and then I found I had a whole lot more. Oh well. So, if you have any opinions on which pom-pom this should go with, let me know. And I finished the pair of vanilla socks that I was working on. I'm trying to, let's see, Knit Picks Felicia yarn again in the Lost Lake colorway, and they are mostly blues. And I haven't worn these yet. I think I finished them on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, I don't remember which. I put them on my feet just long enough to take a picture, and then I took them off, and I haven't done anything with them yet because I was saving them for the video, just like most of the stuff that I'll be showing you today. I haven't used hardly any of it because I was saving it for the video. So, but I love the colors. Very happy with the colors. And these were knit all the way on US 1s, 2.5 millimeters. I think like 1.5 inches for the cuff. I've been experimenting with cuff lengths too. Kind of drawing some inspiration from Elizabeth Zimmerman. I think she's the one that said make it as long as you can stand it, or you're tired of doing 1x1 ribbing, something like that. And then I got it in my head, I think in October, that I wanted to learn to weave. Because I don't have enough to do, apparently. And I told my husband, and he said, okay, we will do it, we'll do this. You know, we'll keep an eye out for sales, although probably I wouldn't get it until January. Well, he was looking on eBay, and he came across a deal that was frankly too good for us to pass up. And I wish I could bring the loom in and show you, but I don't think that's really feasible because the space here is not really that deep. I'll have a picture for it on the blog. We ended up getting a 32-inch Kromsky Forte. I know some people call it Forte, but I'm used to saying Fort based on, it's something that a gentleman I used to work with, he was kind of insistent about words being used properly, so he always said Fort. So that's always been stuck in my head. And it came with a stand, And the only thing it didn't have when I got it, because it was used, it was a older woman I purchased it from, and I think she may have tried it a few times and then decided she didn't really like it, or didn't like weaving, or maybe this was too big for her. I don't know. But it didn't have a warping loom, and my a warping peg. I need to drink more water. It didn't come with a warping peg, and then one of my friends, another friend, came to the rescue and sent me one, and that was very kind of her. So thank you, Kristen, because without that, I'm sure I would still be a little intimidated on how to warp this thing, because I haven't tried the indirect warping yet, even though I've watched a class on Craftsy, Blueprint, whatever you want to call it, and the gal showed how to do it indirectly, and I'm still worried about like coming up with yarn barf and everything being tangled, although some of my weaver friends assured me that does not happen. And even though I've seen it in the rigid heddle weaving class that it won't happen, I'm still a little nervous. So everything that I've done so far, which has only been three, has been direct warping, and it's a learning process. It's such a learning process, because I've managed to bungle it up both times, and then, what did I do the first time? The first time I attached it on the wrong side. I didn't attach it on the rear beams. I'm not sure what they're called, but I attached it on the front, and then, of course, after I did everything and cut some stuff, and I realized what I did, and it was, I think I spent quite a few hours trying to fix that, and then, of course, the tension was goofy, and things weren't working right, and I was feeling very frustrated, but I persevered, decided this is what I'm going to do, try to fix it, and if that doesn't work, oh well, I've got plenty of acrylic yarn to play with. I'll keep at this until I finally get it right. So I think that took me another couple hours, and I got it right as much as I could, and then got the tension correct, and, well, originally it was going to be a scarf, but then when I had to readjust things, it came out really short, so I've actually decided it could still be a scarf, right? Made with Red Heart acrylics, because this was my first project and I didn't want to use anything too fancy. I used a white and red warp, and then used only red for the weft. And I think this is, well, I didn't measure it, but I'd be surprised if it was 3 feet. I could wear it. Is up against the neck, doesn't need to be too long to be a scarf, I suppose, but in the meantime, I decided to use it as a kind of a table runner on one of my little tables, so that way I'm seeing it every day and I'm enjoying it, and I'm actually pretty proud of myself for this being my first weaving project. And you can see the ends are only the edges are only a little wonky. I tried to keep the tension pretty even. I think for the most part I did, but you know, I can say that it was my first one. So when I finished that, then of course I decided I had to jump in and try something else. And I found a website that I'll have to link to because I can't remember the name of it offhand. It was something Fiber Adventures or Weaving Adventures. And the person put down what they used for tea towels. I thought they were called dish towels. Apparently they're called tea towels because it sounds fancier. I don't know. But okay, I'll go with tea towels. And I've got 2 cones of peaches and cream dishcloth yarn. And I don't know the name of the colors. I just grabbed them because I thought they were pretty. So I took these 2 and I tried to do the warp so it was longer and I could do 2 towels off the same one. And I remembered to attach the warp to the back, but I did it on the back apron beam instead of the dowel. Oh, yeah. One of these times I'll get it right? Anyways, I finished the 2 towels and I thought these turned out pretty fabulous too. I'm playing with why go with a plain warp when you can make it more complex and just jump into the thick of things like you know what you're doing. That's one. And I'm still learning how to do the hem stitch for the ends. And I'm thinking that I may eventually convert all of my towels in the kitchen to towels like this. Because they really don't take that long, which I was surprised by and kind of happy because it also kind of helps for if you decide you want to make a last minute gift. Yeah, you have a little bit of leeway time. Oh, one of the big projects that I was working on the last time I recorded, I finished my crochet blanket. Remember this? It is huge. And I can't remember offhand how big it is, but I think it's somewhere around 60 by 60. All I know is I love snuggling up underneath it because it's thanks to that double yarn, because I made this with two yarns at a time. It's really warm and it's squishy, which is always nice. I made this one out of Red Heart again, Red Heart black yarn, and then it was a Red Heart, I think it was called Simply Stripes. I think I have that written on a past blog post, so I'll just mark it there. But I chose that color because the colors were bright, but they weren't too garish. Although next to the black, they're kind of neon. So definitely very bright. I made this up on a 9mm hook. And then I did a border around it. It was all double crochet. And I will tell you, I was so glad when I finally got this done. Not only because I could enjoy it, but I was getting kind of tired of hefting this big heavy thing around. And now I've got it almost always next to my chair in the living room, so I can snuggle under it when I'm watching TV. And then I think the last thing I have, double checking, is my Mystery Advent knit along, that I ordered through Forbidden Fiber Company. I'm sorry, she did a name change a while back, and I still want to call her Forbidden Willery, but I know she's Forbidden Fiber Co. Anyways, so this was my first time doing a Advent calendar mystery knit along, and I'm really glad that I did it because that was a lot of fun. And I was a good girl, and I didn't go peeking ahead at the different colorways. I open up a box, work on that one, and then when that was done, I roll the leftover bit, put it back in the box. I still have the whole box with all the leftovers, and I'm sure I've got enough left to make something out of. I just don't know what yet. And I also did a lot of knitting on this while my boys were out ice fishing, and I was sitting in the truck watching them and, ensuring their safety by staring at the ice house. So anyways, I finished it, and yeah, I have some customizations in it, but that's okay because this is mine and I love it and I'm very happy with it, and I love her colors. I love her reds. I've always been a sucker for reds, but she has a way of making them extremely saturated and vibrant and pretty, and she did pretty good with the blues too, wouldn't you say? Anyways, the pattern designer was someone I hadn't heard of, which I apologize for. I'll have to track that down and I suppose include her name in the comments. It started with an F. FIFA, maybe? I'm not sure, but I'm very happy with this. And the pattern was super easy to memorize too. And they did a lot of little things to keep the interest going. Like, I'm trying to see. They did rows of repeating the knits and the purls, and then knits, and there was a little bit of a, what's it called, Fibonacci sequence, where it started out bigger and then gradually got smaller. I'm not sure how well you can see that. Of course, oh, there we go, I think. Yeah. That was a big one. And I worked on that a little bit almost every day for the month of December. I didn't start it until the first Sunday of Advent. So for getting that done in that time frame, I'm kind of impressed with myself. And let's see, I talked about the work's progress, off the needles, talked about my new loom, and the yarns. Around Thanksgiving, I got the itch for sewing, and I picked up, well, let me backtrack a little bit. 2 summers ago, I had started the Pat Sloan Solstice Quilt-Along, I think is what it was called. Because I just kind of got an interest in quilting. Someone had shown me how to quilt the half square triangles and how to rearrange them into different patterns and shapes, and I had made a little sampler blanket that I could hang up on the wall, which of course now the rabbits have chewed a little bit, so I can't really hang that up anymore. But anyways, a couple summers ago I was kind of flying high off the fabric fumes, and my son said, "Can you make me a quilt, Mom?" And I said, "Sure. Here's all these squares I know. Pick which one you want, and I'll make you a quilt using those squares." And he said, "Oh, can I pick more than one?" I said, "Sure, go right on ahead." So he actually designed the blanket that he wants. And I forgot to grab that sheet of paper, and it's way over in the craft room, and I don't want to stop the video. And I'm really kicking myself right now. But because I'm really proud of that. He took the time to think what he wanted in this blanket and wrote it all down, and he numbered the different squares, and then I started making the first square, the center square, and I screwed it up. I cut it to the wrong size. And I said, I need to step back from this. And like I said, that was 2 summers ago. And it's been something that's been kind of hanging over my head all this time, to the point where he actually forgot that he had asked for this quilt until Thanksgiving-ish about. And I went into my craft room and started digging out the fabrics, finding that little diagram that he made sure I still had all the papers for all the different squares, and I started working on that one square again. And wouldn't you know, I did it again. I cut it to the wrong size. I went, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did this. Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get it right. I'm gonna recut it. It'll be fine. Everything will work out. And I almost did it a third time. And I thought, if I messed up the same thing a third time, I was just gonna be done with it. Toss it out. But no, I got it right. And then I made a few more squares. And then I was cutting fabric ahead so that in the evenings, if I had a little bit of time before bed, I could just go in and go zoom and pull the squares together. And then I had a break where I didn't do anything with it for a few weeks, and then Christmas break I got a lot done. I got a lot done with it, and then the last few squares were just giving me fits. It was a combination between I just couldn't cut right or cut straight, and then I was remembering the wrong sizes, so I was cutting things to the wrong sizes. And that got to the point where I was trying to use the same fabric for the same squares, and I was getting down to the nitty-gritty. So I'm cutting these little pieces of fabric that they're not quite the right size, so then I'm sewing them together and recutting them again, which, yeah, I know, it's quilting. And I finally got it all right. I got it all done, and then something happened, I don't remember what, and then I had to trim down all the squares because I never can get them to the size that they should be. I got some that were the correct size, and I only needed to do a little bit of trimming, or I would have needed to do only a little bit of trimming, to ones that were so obviously just, all the little piecing just was not right. So I just cut everything down so that it would have been, well, let's see, finished size on the squares were 12 inches. So they were 13 inches raw, and I trimmed them down to 12 inches. So they would have been 11 inches in the thing. Anyways, so I did all that, and then, gosh, I just finished it. I just finished it this weekend, and I am so glad it's done. And then I forgot how much does anybody like basting quilts? I know I don't, and I was glad to finally get that done. And then, of course, make all the binding. And I had the great idea that I was going to hand stitch the binding. I'd, sew on the binding, but then finishing it off, I would hand stitch it. Hour 4 or hour 5, I thought, what was I thinking? This is going way longer than I thought it would. Because you watch the videos of the people showing how to hand stitch, and they're just zoom, 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 zoom. You think, oh, this shouldn't take that long. Well, I was going zoom, 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 but it took me hours and hours, and it still didn't solve all the problems. I decided I wanted to hand stitch it because every time that I try to sew the quilty stuff together, like, you know, things shift, and the binding is one of those things where it always comes out, it doesn't go quite the way I want it to. It twists or something, and I thought if I hand stitch it, everything will be okay. Well, I still had some issues, but the binding was straightish for the most part. But yeah, I was really wishing I had just decided to machine stitch the binding. But I did. I've been watching a lot of quilting videos on YouTube lately. Straightish is okay, close enough is good enough, and a finished quilt is better than a perfect quilt top. So I had all this stuff going on in my head, and I was thinking, oh, I can do this, and hey, this is turning out great. Till I got to the finishing parts, and I obviously need more practice, but it's, you know, where I'm struggling the most right now, and I've got it right over here. I'll have a picture on the blog, but in the meanwhile, ta-da! See that sunburst quilt square? That is the one that was giving me problems. And I decided that one's kind of Minecraft-ish looking. My son loves it. I don't know if it's because I guilted him. I said, when I'm done with this, you better love it, and you better use it. Well, he's been sleeping with it every night since he got it, and let's see, I machine quilted the squares. I tried to go in the ditch, or as best to in the ditch as I could. I'm not sure how well you can see the stitches. And they're fairly straight-ish. I used my darning foot for the very first time. It was my first time doing anything even remotely free motion quilting. And it went so much better than I thought it would. So that is all the craft stuff that I have been doing these last few months. And I see we're at 45 minutes, which was kind of what I thought how long all that talking would take. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in the craft related stuff I want to talk about. I did sign myself up for a 1-year subscription for the Blueprint, Craftsy, whatever you want to call it. I thought it was, the deal that I saw was too good to pass up, where it was 1-year subscription for $80, and you could choose 12 classes that you could keep for free. You'll get codes, 3 codes every quarter, and you can use them towards any classes that you want to keep forever. And I know there's a whole, I don't even know what you want to call it, but Blueprint is going through some changes and changing some of the pattern stuff, and I think how they're compensating some of the teachers on there. So I know most of my knitter friends are not real happy with Craftsy or Blueprint right now. And I know somebody commented that they received a notice from Blueprint stating that their subscription fee was going to go up some crazy amount. And she's like, I hardly use this service anyways. I'm not going to pay more for it. So she's going to cancel it. And I think that the price that I paid, if I keep renewing it, which I'm not saying that I am, I could probably get all that I want from it out of 1 year. But if I decide to keep renewing it, I think they keep it at the same price of the $79.99, which, after reading what other people have to say, that's a really good price. Of course, I'm wondering also what is the reason why they're trying to get all the subscribers on with the lower prices, but above my head. It's above my head. I have not been reading at all the last few months. I just not had the brain space for it. I did finally download an audiobook that I listened to previously, and that's a fun story. It is called A Corner of White, and I'm looking, let's see. I've got the other book downloaded, but I haven't listened to it yet. But The Corner of White, it's a fun story. It's about a boy who lives in the kingdom of Cello and a girl named Madeline who lives in Cambridge, England. And through a crack, they're able to communicate by writing letters to each other. Madeline found a letter stuck in a parking meter, and Elliot found a letter tucked in an old, they have this, they're not called televisions, televisors maybe? Anyways, there's a couple different storylines going on, and it's fun. And of course, Madeline doesn't believe that she's actually speaking to somebody from a different world. She thinks she's talking to a geek who, is socially awkward, but is somehow, sticking these notes in the parking meters to her. And then she finally realizes that, hey, this guy is really from a different place. And I'm getting close to the end. I don't know how much more to say about it. It's just that it's a fun story. There's nothing gory. Elliot's on a... Oh my gosh, I just realized. Elliot's on a quest to find his father, who disappeared during a... Let's see, in the Kingdom of Cello, there are color attacks, where clouds... That's not even right. Like, colors come through, and they have different things attached to them. Like purples will attack, and they're kind of vicious. And if they don't kill you, they sometimes will take you and whisk you away to their lairs, and they can keep you alive for sometimes up to a year. Where red attacks have you feeling all different kinds of emotions. And then there's different levels of these colors. I guess it's one of those things you have to read or listen to understand what I'm getting at. But they're fun. I've not heard the whole trilogy yet. I've heard part of the second one, I think, and I don't think I've listened to the third one at all. because I got my husband hooked on listening to it, because he listens to audiobooks to and from work. And sometimes I just download the audiobook that I'm listening to for him, so he has something to listen to rather than trying to find out something new for him. So which reminds me, I need to get the second book on request. Oh, and I finished The Rosie Project. That was what I was listening to the last time I talked with you. And that finished, well, kind of to be expected, of course. You know, they fell in love, he proposed, she said yes, and she found out who her father really is. That was just such a fun story, too. Laugh out loud. Some good humor. Just slapstick. And that's another one I suppose I have to put the request in for the next book. But I'm just not quite there yet. Okay, coop news. Oh. It's actually not as bright out as it looks. I've got the chickens safely in the coop. They're not too happy about being secured all the time now, although I do let them out in the late afternoon so they have some time to run out under the coop and do a quick dust bath or two and stretch their legs. But they're showing me their displeasure with the winter by slowing down on the egg production. And I can't say that I blame them, because I think everybody's kind of sick of winter by now. We've thankfully haven't had a lot of snow, but the snow that we did have was heavy heart attack snow, and it's actually done some damage to the trees. It has been so weird weather-wise here. A week or so ago I posted a blog post that said I lived in a snow globe, which is true, because it kind of rained and sleeted, and then it switched over to snow, and the temperature dropped enough that everything stuck to the tree branches, and then of course weighed everything down. But in the meantime, it was super pretty, and the wind was blowing just enough, and I never know if it's snow coming off the trees or if it is snow coming down from the sky, and it was just kind of and real pretty, and it was just like a snow globe. And of course that got a little old too, because then the temperatures dropped and everything froze, and it's like ice everywhere. Yesterday I made the mistake of going down this one stretch of back road, and I felt my car, I'm trying to go straight, well, then it shimmy over, and I'm trying to, like, soft hands, not freak out, keep going straight, and my speeds kept going slower and slower and slower, and like, what am I doing? Why did I take this way? And I don't think I'll be going on that road again until spring, because it's seriously scary. It's like an ice rink out there. And I have some news from the hutch. Shadow is no longer the little sweetheart. Oh, I'm not sure who just ran across, if you saw a little but she is easily twice the size of our boys, Haas and Pfeffer. And she's crabby. Oh, she's kind of cranky now. She doesn't want to be touched. She'll come out and see you, but then if you make a motion to go pet her or something, she goes and runs back into the shelter. And she had a baby last weekend. And it being her first litter, the baby was stillborn, which was kind of sad. We were all bummed out about that. So I brought her into the house and I had her in in a tote, covered up, kind of by herself and quiet. So if she had any more babies, she could have them in peace. But she didn't have any more babies. And then I looked up about labor and delivery in rabbits and said that can happen between 5 to 30 minutes, any babies that they have. So, and honestly, I'm surprised she had a litter to begin with, because she's so big compared to Pfeffer that I don't know how it works. But as one gal told me, where there's a will, there's a way. But she always looked like she was just putting up with it. All right, okay, let's get this over with. What's this pest on my back? Anyways, I'm sorry. I haven't been doing much cooking in the kitchen. I did make Christmas dinner for my family. We had Thanksgiving over at my mother-in-law's. Or wait, yeah. It wasn't that long ago. I can't remember. But anyways, I did have a meal over at my mother-in-law's. It must have been, the family meal was on the Sunday before Christmas. And then I made the meal for me and my boys on Christmas Day. And it was very good. Both meals were very good. But other than that, I haven't been much into cooking at all. And everything's been kind of by the skin of my teeth. My meal planning stunk. I'm trying to get better at that. Because it was just too chaotic the last couple of months, and now I'm trying to use this time to kind of rein everything back in. But in the meantime, Ghirardelli brownie mixes have been my friend when I wanted something sweet. And I did make a banana cake that turned out so good. I hope I have the recipe still on my phone, and I'll share that in the notes, but it was really good. And didn't even need frosting, I thought. It was very moist. Oh, it's just so tasty. Really good. I did cut back on the sugar that the gal called for by 1/4 of a cup each. Because I know you don't need that much sugar, especially when they say for bananas that should be use bananas that are pretty black and over-ripened. Well, there's so much natural sugar in there that you don't need extra stuff. And then while we were on Christmas break, we took advantage of the nice weather and we were working on splitting wood in the back, cutting down the trees in the back 20, bringing them up and splitting. But now that the weather is so cold again, and then we had snow, that it's not feasible right now. It'd be just misery trying to do all of that stuff. And then I said earlier, my boys have been ice fishing. They decided they wanted to ice fish. And that's cool, but you're not going to get me out on the ice. And I know my husband would love for me to go out there and be out there fishing with them too. But I just, no. I'll stay in the truck and I'll watch and I'll hang out, which I was doing when the weather was nicer, but now I just stay home, and I used a lot of that time to work on the quilt. And I think that's why I was able to get it done as soon as I did, is because I had all that, I hesitate to say free time, but I had that time where I didn't need to focus on anything else. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's been going on. And, other than this stuff, I think it's been fairly quiet. It's been, well, I won't say that's been quiet at work. Uh, if you're watching and you're in my region, you know that last week a gal by the name of Jamie Kloss was found. Back in October, she had disappeared, and her parents were shot to death, and nobody knew what happened, what was going on, or anything. And last week, she escaped. She dug down deep and got herself out of there and found help. And our whole area is just so thankful that she was found alive. She lives, I don't know how many hours away from me. Under 5, I think. Under 5 hours away. But she was found a lot closer up to Lake Superior, and I was actually really astonished that she was found in our county. But the important thing is that she was found and she's home safe now with family. So I guess that could be my happiness for this week. Or if we don't want to go there, I guess my happiness would be I finally got the quilt done after almost 2 years. So hopefully next episode will be a little bit shorter, although I found that, yes, I do have the gift of gab, and I think I can just drag anything out for quite a while. So. But I know I'll have less to talk about the next time. Not so many FOs. And I'm hoping to get my loom warped sometime by the end of this week. And I have another project in mind that I want to start up. That it's something that's been languishing for a while. It's the crochet topped kitchen towels, which is funny because I just said I wanted to transition everything over to the towels, the woven towels, but I really like the towels that have they're crocheted on the top and button, and you can hang them from the stove or the kitchen, the fridge handle, because I know words, and stuff like that, and I really like those, and I can have them everywhere, and I don't have to worry about them falling on the floor. So, until next time, thanks for watching.